back on a Tuesday. It's the Manchild Show with Lloyd Green Digital, talking all things football. In this case, you see our beautiful blue assemblage. That is, big blue, as in my New York Football Giants. We had a week where we could kind of enjoy ourselves, drink from the cup of the spoils, that kind of thing. To the victor goes the spoils. That didn't last very long. Jaxson Dart, start number 2, didn't go quite as swimmingly. Let's talk with our Giants insider. He joins us every week. He's one of the editors over at Big Blue View. Let's welcome in the one, the only Giants insider, Ed Valentine. Hello, Ed. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
I was looking forward to talking about another win. I figured, we've got the New Orleans Saints. We've got the confidence high. We got the kid in there at quarterback. There seems to be a groundswell of, energy around this team. And after a 14-3 lead, as I saw on the scoreboard, as I was sitting watching the Jets and the Cowboys in the stadium that the Giants play in, I saw that score starting to shrink away, and then I saw the Giants behind, and then I didn't find out until I left that stadium and was listening to radio on my way back to Syracuse how many times we had coughed up the ball, apparently. Jaxson Dart, 2 of them through the air, and 5 consecutive possessions where the Giants turned the ball over. Ed, explain it to me. What happened?
I wish I could explain it to you, really, but, I knew there was a problem when every writer at Big Blue View picked the Giants to win this week.
That's always a problem.
I knew there was a problem.
Looming again.
In fact, I wrote that was a problem. But, look, I think the Giants are stunned by that series of possessions as well. Mike Kafka said he'd never been around it. Brian Daboll said he'd never seen it before. A couple of the players said they've never been around something like that before. So they're stunned by that series of events. But look, that's a game the Giants should have won. It reminds me a lot of the Carolina Panthers game a year ago that they should have won. Okay, but bad football teams find unique, incredible ways to lose football games. And I said this on my own show Monday morning. Give the Giants some credit. If you're going to lose and you're going to a winless team, you might as well go lose in spectacular, historic, memorable fashion. And the Giants accomplished that to perfection. So give them credit for that.
The fumble, Joe Pisarcik, that's not enough. We already had to live through that era of Giants football. Need there be a new era where we have, ample ineptness of the same magnitude? Ooh, oh.
Hey, like I said, give them credit for doing it in spectacular fashion, but no, it was ugly, and you begin to wonder what now for the Giants, because they could have beaten Dallas. They probably should have beaten Dallas. They should have beaten the Saints. They, by all rights, they could easily be 3-2 right now, but they're 1-4. They've got 2 games against the Eagles, 1 against the Broncos, and 1 against the 49ers coming up. And you could easily be staring at 1-8, 9 games into the season.
Or a 4-game winning streak, knowing the way the football goes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Well, you are just. I think you are more optimistic than Russell Wilson. I think
it's my buddy. He rubs off on me. The Jets are 0-5, and he's going to talk about they're winning the next 6. They'll be over 500 by this date, and so on and so forth. So that's just the way it goes in his life. I want to be him. I want to be him instead of me.
I've come to believe that the sunshine lives permanently over Russell Wilson's head. So even though he's a backup now, I think the sun still lives over his head.
Since you bring Russell Wilson up, let me bring this up. Jaxson Dart threw those 2 picks. One of them in particular was a god-awful pick. If Russell Wilson throws that kind of pick, he is crucified, okay, by the New York media, by the New York talking heads. Okay, he is taken out to the woodshed and buried afterwards. The kid, he's a kid. He's a rook, makes mistakes. It's all kind of light fare. So I'm not saying I completely and utterly disagree with it. It's two different situations with two different quarterbacks, but it just seems a little heavy-handed one way or the other. So give me your take on that. I mean, how much criticism does Jaxson Dart deserve coming off this effort?
Well, look, you said it. He's a kid making his second NFL start, making his first start on the road. And look, you have to learn to put the ball away. You can't go running around carrying the ball in one hand like a loaf of bread, and letting it slip away. You can't do that. I cannot kill him for the 2 interceptions. One was on a 4th down. One was a 4th down play where he's running around behind the line of scrimmage, and at some point on 4th down, and I think it was 6 or whatever, at some point you have to throw the football somewhere. And if it gets intercepted, it gets intercepted, because if you don't throw the ball, you're losing it anyway. And the second one, I don't know if you've actually seen the play. The second one he threw was an in cut to undrafted rookie free agent Bo Collins. And Bo Collins conveniently decided to skip the in cut part of his route. He just stopped where he was supposed to make the in cut. The only one who made the in cut was the Saints cornerback, Kool-Aid McKinstry. And, so Dart completed the pass to the only guy that ran the route.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to kill Dart.
You ran the button hook. He's supposed to run it down and in. What the heck was he doing there? Come on.
What I would like to say is, look, the Giants clearly absolutely miss Malik Neighbors. I didn't think about that a whole lot during the game on Sunday, but when you reflect on it, the reality of it is, with the rookie quarterback, they need to help the kid. The players around him need to make plays. All right. You have Darius Slayton, veteran wide receiver, failing to make 3 plays in the game that needed to be made, that were difference-making plays. He fumbles away a ball after a completion right around the New Orleans 30-yard line that takes away a scoring opportunity from the Giants and hands the Saints 3 points. You have a deep shot right before the 87-yard touchdown pass to Rashid Shaheed. You have a deep shot to Slayton that he's got both hands on in the New Orleans red zone and doesn't catch it. I'm sorry, an NFL wide receiver has to catch that pass. And then you have the flea flicker play, which 3rd and 2 near midfield, I thought was a really good call by Mike Kafka. Slayton's running wide open down the field. Dart's a little bit late getting the ball out, and I don't know if that's because the pitch back to him was late, but he's a little bit late. He's a little bit short. But again, it's a contested catch. Darius Slayton has both hands on it, can't bring it down. Again, got to help your quarterback. When you're the best wide receiver left on the football team, you're the veteran guy, you're the leader of that group, got to help your quarterback. They didn't. Cam Scatabo with the big fumble too. You have to help. You have to be able to help a kid. You can't expect him to do it all on his own. And the Giants really didn't on Sunday.
So let's get into the interesting scheduling quirks here we're going to have with the New York Giants. They have a short week. They play on Thursday Night Football. So that's its own animal that we could talk about. You mentioned the Eagles sandwich they have, where they have Eagles, Broncos, Eagles again. And when you're playing 2 of these teams all coming together here. So what is the challenges for the Giants? And not only playing an opponent, obviously twice in a short period of time, it's a division rival as well. How do the Giants approach this amount of games in this very short period of time?
Well, it's just difficult. It's a short week playing the Eagles, and you're coming off a really disappointing loss. And players talk about trying to flush that. Okay, but it's very difficult to flush that when you know in your head that you just lost a game. You weren't beaten. You just lost a game to the worst team on your schedule. And now you have to go face the defending Super Bowl champions on national television, where you have a nasty habit of embarrassing yourself. So it's a very difficult mental hurdle, I think, for the Giants to overcome at this point. The Eagles twice in 3 weeks is not fun at all. Roger Goodell and the schedule makers at the NFL didn't do the Giants any favors there, but I think mentally this is a very difficult game for the Giants. You just given all the history and given the fact that they fully understand that if they don't play well on Thursday, they're going to get embarrassed.
Which, again, is its own challenges against the Eagles, who I imagine. Do you put any stock into they're angry, right? The Eagles lose their first game of the season against the Broncos. And depending on when you can play a certain team, that they may have more anger coming off of whatever just transpired most recently. Do you put any stock into that whatsoever? Is that just media made-up narrative?
I don't know that it's media made-up narrative, but I'm also not sure anger is the right word. I think that when you look at the Eagles, and I actually used the word anger in a headline somewhere along the way this week with the Eagles. But really what I think it is the Eagles are 4-1, and it's a Super Bowl championship team that understands that no matter what its record is, they haven't played as well as they're capable of playing. They know that. They know they can play better. They know they have better football in them. And I would say that you're probably coming in Thursday night facing an Eagles team that is disappointed in itself and really wants to begin to get things right. So more than anger, I think you're looking at an Eagles team that's probably just disappointed in the way that it's played. Whether it can fix its offensive problems, who knows?
Yeah, let me take it one step deeper. So, I mean, Jalen Hurts, to me, in a lot of ways, Ed, is an anomaly. I mean, number one, he's the best guy in football at, executing the tush push. He is obviously a guy who is a true dual threat quarterback. But then a lot like Lamar Jackson, there are those issues sometimes with throwing the ball, even more so with Hurts. And you have this, situation with A.J. Brown, who's, quoting the Bible and saying all kinds of stuff about, his lack of production in this particular offense. And yet they're winning football games other than the one loss. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to be, 4-1 right now after 5 weeks? Just ask the two New York Football fans here sitting on the other side of the screen here. So evaluate Jalen Hurts for me. How do you see him in the NFL? Is he a great quarterback? Is he a top 5 guy in your mind? Or are there flaws that, Philly spends its time hiding?
First of all of these are rich people problems. Problems that fans of the Giants and the Jets don't have. Okay,
first world problems.
They're first world problems. Okay, but I don't see Jalen Hurts as a top 5 quarterback. But look, Jalen Hurts is a winning quarterback. Jalen Hurts is a guy who makes a lot of winning plays for his football team. He is also a quarterback who is in the right place with the right team because he doesn't have to be Joe Burrow. Okay, he doesn't have to go out and throw the ball 35 times every week and try to win football games on his own. He can with his legs. He can make throws when they're needed. I don't know why, but I just thought about Phil Simms, who was a different kind of quarterback, because he didn't run around all the time. But Phil Simms was never, in my mind, never a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but he was the right quarterback for the right team, at the right time. He was the right quarterback for the Giants because of his toughness, because of the things that he could do, because of his leadership, because he could tolerate being screamed at 24 hours a day by Bill Parcells. Mm-hmm. But I think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I wouldn't build a franchise around Jalen Hurts, but I think he's I think he's the right quarterback at the right time for the Eagles.
Ed, there also have been some rumblings about Saquon Barkley's play with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, let's face it. I mean, last year, embarrassing as it was to the Giants, this guy was playing like an all-world guy, arguably the best running back in all of football. And now things have kind of, it's lukewarm at the moment. Saquon is still fine. He still can do things. But Philly seems to be having the same problem that I saw the Giants have for years and years and years with Saquon, and that is not getting that guy the ball in space, which is where he is dangerous. Assess how Philly this year is using Saquon Barkley.
Well, look, I think Philly has issues throughout its offense. They have a new offensive coordinator, and which is what happens when you win. Teams go after your coordinators. They have Kevin Patullo now as their offensive coordinator. And I think there's an adjustment going on. I happened to look it up the other day. Saquon ran for 2,000 yards last year. You know what he's on pace for right now?
What's that?
He's on pace for 907 yards rushing. Okay. He's on pace for 907 yards rushing. Is that because Saquon is different? Or is that because the Eagles are different? I think it's because the Eagles are different. Maybe it's Patullo's play calling. Maybe it's that he hasn't fully figured out the personnel that he's got. But I don't think Saquon's any different. The thing I always said about Saquon with the Giants, and the reason why I said he landed in the right place for himself a year ago was, look, Saquon Barkley, when you hand him the ball, when you hand him the football, he's just like every other running back. When he hits the line of scrimmage, he's just like every other running back. When he gets 3 or 4 or 5 yards down the field and he hasn't been hit yet, he's like pretty much like no other running back other than Barry Sanders. Okay. If you get him through the line of scrimmage, he can do things nobody else can do. But if you don't block things well, if you get him hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage, no running back is going to be successful. It's just that if you can get Saquon into the open field, he can do things nobody else can do. So, so for me, it's got to be some issues up front for the Eagles as well. But I think they just haven't figured things out with a new offensive coordinator yet.
Yeah. I just wonder if he were with an Andy Reid or if he was with a Kyle Shanahan, and these are two, guys who know how to run offenses and have done it for a long time and do it really, really well. I just wonder what kind of production he would put out, because I see what Christian McCaffrey is doing out there. And I see, I know the running backs aren't great this year in Kansas City, but he knows how to craft things. If he had that kind of talent, that guy, he'd be 2,000 plus again. He might get to 2,500 with either one of those two coaches, but hey,
yeah, Saquon with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid would be something special. Saquon with Kyle Shanahan, as you said, would be something special. I think the Eagles are going to figure it out. I can't imagine that they won't. But until they do, they don't look like the same offense.
They definitely don't.
Talking with Ed Valentine, our Giants insider here, Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button and also hit the thumbs up like. We'd love for you to like our video. Just do that. It's at MC Show Digital on YouTube. Today's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Bayberry Automotive, the integrity in everything auto repair shop. Let's take 30 seconds to learn a little bit more about our friends from Bayberry. Integrity is a word that some people just throw around in life. But at Bayberry Automotive, integrity is everything. Integrity of their mechanics, who are all experienced and certified. Integrity in the work they perform, with nothing but 5-star reviews from satisfied customers on Google. Integrity that goes along with family, a family-run business that treats you like one of their own. Integrity in everything. Bayberry Automotive. BayberryAutomotive.com.
Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool.
All right, back, Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Again, if you get in on our subscribers right now, we're giving away a free golf club. It's a $400 golf club. Boy Green put me up on the big screen so that I can show it to you. It is a Cleveland high-bore driver. Fantastic. High-bore XL. I'll pull the head cover off, and look at it, still wrapped in the plastic. This was donated by our friend at Play It Again Sports, one of our loyal sponsors. Usually at Play It Again, you're getting refurbished goods. You're getting goods that were gently used by other people and saving lots of money, but they do sell some used goods as well, and this is one of those new golf clubs. So a $400 value, the Cleveland high-board driver going out the door to one of our first 500 subscribers, and we are climbing very quickly towards that plateau. So get in now. You see the link right there, youtube.com/MC Show Digital. All right, we're talking with Ed Valentine, Big Blue View, our Giants insider. Boy Green, why don't you fire off the next question?
All right, Ed. If you could give some advice to the Giants as they head into this very critical, tough stretch, specifically the Eagles on a short week, what would your advice be to the New York Giants?
Try to engineer a blackout. So, maybe.
Lights out. Okay.
I don't know. Unplug all the cameras. I don't know.
Is it going to be that bad, Ed?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm mystified by this Giants team because I stand by what I said throughout the offseason. I think this is a better Giants roster. I think it's a better Giants football team. It should be a more competitive football team. But it's a football team that I honestly think that what happens to teams sometimes is that you start to wait for the other shoe to drop. You start to think, we're a losing football team. We're bad. Something's going to happen. And then when something bad happens in every football game, but the good football teams are able to shake that off and move on. The bad football teams, that stuff just seems to snowball.
Yeah.
And with the Giants, it just snowballs from one thing to the next, from giving up an 87-yard touchdown pass to turning the ball over 5 straight times. And that's where the Giants are. The Giants, you need to learn how to stop losing games. You need to, I don't know if you call it learning to win or learning not to lose games, but I listened to Carl Banks the other day talk about it, and Carl, who spends way more time on social media, than I do, arguing with fans and trying to enlighten them. And he has way more patience than I would for a lot of these people. But, Carl points out play after play after play where maybe the scheme was designed to put players in the right spot and they just didn't do their assignment. They just didn't do their job. And is that on the defensive coaches or the offensive coaches? Or is that just on the player for just not doing what he was expected to do on a given play? So the Giants are just hard for me to explain, because I think they should be better than the product that generally shows up on Sunday. And I don't know where the blame lies. I know that sooner or later the blame is going to land on Brian Daboll's desk, which means it's not going to be Brian Daboll's desk anymore. But I don't know that that's entirely, the reason for what's going on.
Yeah, I'm losing a little faith. I will admit, Ed. I like stability. I'm a big one in not firing coaches, holding on, letting organizations, get their foothold and not being so rash, especially when maybe you have an incomplete roster. You have to give, I think, you bring in a new GM, you bring in a coach, you got to give them several years to get the organization in the kind of order that they imagined it to be when they took over the job, because you're cleaning up somebody else's mess. This team was a mess when they took it over, and they're cleaning up a mess. And they've made mistakes along the way. There's no question. Joe Shane has made mistakes. Brian Daboll has made a lot of mistakes. But there does come a point where, as a fan, you start to lose a little bit of faith. And I feel like I'm losing a little faith. Am I justified in losing faith right now? Or is it just too crazy? I mean, this is a hard schedule. I understand. I didn't expect a ton out of this team this year, but I think what I wanted to see week in and week out was something competitive. And I feel at times there just have been decisions that have made it not feel that way.
No, I get that, because like I said, this Saints game was equivalent to me of the Panthers game a year ago, where the Giants lost that game in overtime. I think that was the final straw for Daniel Jones as Giants quarterback. That's just a game where there's no excuse not to win it. Okay, period. End of conversation. No excuse not to win it. The Giants had the better football team than the Saints did. They just didn't play like a better football team. And as for losing some faith, look, the Giants made the playoffs in 2022 with Brian Daboll. He earned that Coach of the Year award. But like you, I have spent 2.5 seasons now shaking my head at a lot of the game day roster decisions that they've made, at a lot of the roster construction decisions that they've made, at a lot of the inability to fix some of the same issues that we've seen for more than 2 years now. And at some point, it's not only you and me that start to lose faith.
Yeah.
At some point,
and the players.
At some point, the guys in the locker room start to wonder if this guy standing up in front of them speaking has the answers.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And
agree.
And I think the Giants are in a tough spot for the simple reason, look, like you guys, I supported the idea of bringing back Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, because I supported the idea that they deserved the right to draft their own quarterback and try to develop him. But now they're in a tough spot, because now things are not going well again. They're headed for another 3-14 season. Okay. And can you justify, if you go 3-14 again, even though you don't want to put Jaxson Dart in the Daniel Jones head coach GM spin cycle, that you put Jones through, can you justify going forward, with a regime that they're 4-18 in their last 22 games?
Yeah.
How long can you justify that and say, well, Brian Daboll's best for Jaxson Dart? He might be, but you still have to win games.
Yep.
So it's a tough spot for ownership to be in.
It is. It's complicated. It's complicated. John Mara and company will have that decision to make at some point. All right, Ed, as always, great to talk to you, my friend. We will chat with you again next week. Thanks for the insight.
All righty. We'll talk to you later.
All right, there he is. Ed Valentine, Big Blue View.